The movie begins during World War II. A boy named Bruno lived in Berlin, Nazi Germany. 8-year-old Bruno runs home after playing with his friends. Next scene. This is Bruno's mother. Preparations are being made for the night party here. At the same time, during World War II, the Jewish people were stripped of their rights and forcibly relocated. Bruno is playing on these streets. This is Bruno's older sister Gretel. Next, Bruno is home now. He asking his mom what is happening. She replied that would throw a party today night for the father promotion. Nazi officer Ralph, Bruno's father, has been promoted from his job and announces that they are transferring from Berlin to rural Poland. Bruno is saddened to hear that he is leaving his childhood friends and being appointed commandant of the camp, although he promises that they will be able to make new friends. Later, Bruno and his sister attend a dinner party. Everyone congratulates Ralph on his promotion. As they leave the house, Bruna plays with her friends one last time and sadly leaves. Then, several days later, the family boards a train to their new home. In the next scene, Bruno and his family arrive at their new home in occupied Poland. It was a two-storied house with a high-walled garden. Bruno did not accept the new home. Not only was it smaller than their Berlin home, it struck him as cold and lonely. And to make matters worse, there were players everywhere. Bruno is surprised that they live here without neighbors. Their house is far away from town, so there are no friends to play with. On the day the family arrived, Bruno looked out his new bedroom window and saw a strange sight. He noticed some houses on the other side of a very tall fence that stretched far away. He believes that the houses belong to farmers and he assumes that children play there. He then tells his mother that he saw a lot of boys and men in striped pajamas and matching hats. Then an old man brings them vegetables and notices that he is wearing pajamas, and Bruno informs his mother. Immediately Bruno's mother visits his room. In the next scene, Bruno decides to talk to his father. After voicing his frustrations about the new home and advocating for the family to return to Berlin, Bruno asks who the people are on the other side of the fence. The father explained that they were not human and that Bruno should not worry about them. At the same time, mother finds the farm that Bruno mentions, literally a concentration camp for Jews. Bruno continued to complain about the new house. He tried to persuade Gretel to oppose the family's relocation one day, but she refused. She told Bruno that father was a good man who had helped her and her family when they were in desperate need. As a result, she would not say anything negative about him. Gretel had never previously told Bruno about her life, and her story made him realize that she was a complete person with her own life history and experiences. Bruno is playing alone in his new house. Sad that he is alone and not there. He was playing in the garden the day before. He notices a small door that leads to the back of the house. He quietly enters. Then his mother scolds him and calls him inside the house. They forbid Bruno to make friends and play. Ralph informs Bruno at dinner that he has arranged for a teacher to acclimatize him to his new home, and his sister Gretel appears pleased that Bruno will not have to attend school. As the weeks pass, Bruno struggles to occupy himself. Bruno notices Gretel smiling and conversing with the commander. He decides to build a tire swing and approaches him. He summoned an old Jew named Pavel and ordered him to build the swing. Pavel takes Bruno to a room in the backyard and takes out a tire. He notices that there is a window in the room. Bruno was swinging on his new swing when he saw black smoke in the sky. He falls down trying to find where the smoke is coming from and injures his leg. Bruno's mother soon arrives and observes Pavel tending to the injured Bruno. She looks confused, but thanks him for his help. In the following scene, Bruno looks out the window of his sister and notices an elderly man riding a bicycle, whom he assumes is their new teacher. The teacher begins teaching the year about the Nazi regime and its history, and Bruno, who likes to read adventure books, gets a big bulky history book. While sitting on a swing reading a book, he notices that the backyard door is open, so he leaves the shed through the window and enters the forest, not knowing where the path leads, and keeps running. Following the trail, he reaches what he believes to be a farm surrounded by barbed wire fences. Bruno notices a boy on the other side of the fence, and everyone inside is wearing identical striped pajamas. As he sits alone, he notices the stark contrast between the boy's parents and the neighborhood in which they live. Despite the fact that they are the same age, Bruno introduces himself and informs him that the other boy's name is Shemuel. Hungry, Shemuel asks Bruno if he has brought anything to eat, to which Bruno says he will bring it next time they meet. But the next time Shemuel thought he was part of the game, he decided to quietly bring something for him. Bruno notices the numbers on his clothes and Shemuel replies that the name of the game is Number. Shemuel soon returns to camp after the guard starts whistling. Bruno was happy to have a new friend. The next day, when Bruno asks his mother where the soccer ball is to play with a new friend, he steals a chocolate for his hungry friend. Bruno Shemuel, who had come to the camp with chocolate this time, was nowhere to be found. Then Bruno returns home and begins studying with his new teacher. The following day, Bruno and Shemuel sit on opposite sides of the fence and talk about their lives. Bruno inquires as to why everyone is dressed in striped pajamas. Shemuel responds by saying that the soldiers stole our clothes, and Shemuel described how his family was forced to walk into an overcrowded ghetto before boarding a train to reach this camp in a remote part of Poland. Bruno claims that my father is also a soldier, but that others do not take clothing. When Bruno asks Shemuel what his father does, he responds that he is a watch mechanic. work, but he also sews many people's sandals here. Finally, Bruno discovers that Shemuel is Jewish. After that, he asks what they are burning above. Shemuel replies that it's just straw and a few things. Finally, Shemuel asks, "Did you bring anything? I am hungry." Bruno says, "Forgive me, yesterday I brought chocolate but you didn't come." And Bruno has invited him to dinner at his house. Shemuel claims that the fence is there to keep us from leaving. They construct fences to keep animals in. When Bruno asks if you're human, Shemuel responds that we're Jews. Then they said they would meet tomorrow and then left. In the next scene, the teacher is seen teaching the children that Jews are evil. However, when considering Shemuel as the primary cause of the country's demise, Bruno retorts after class that not all Jews are evil. Shemuel wants to eat, so leaving some food in his bags, he smartly leaves the house and comes to the camp with a football, where he gives Shemuel the food he has brought and watches over him. Shortly after finishing it, Bruno threw his soccer ball into the camp to play with Shemuel, but a frightened Shemuel threw it back. Shemuel hides behind the pillars and tells Bruno that there will be trouble. Meanwhile, Bruno's mother was worried about the stench coming from the chimneys. Lieutenant Koller informs her that the smoke from the camp is caused by the burning of Jewish bodies. Elsa is shocked to hear this and rushes to Ralph to confront him. He explains to her about the promotion to be hanged. At dinner, Kotler confesses that his father has gone to Switzerland. Ralph talks to Kotler, who says he should have asked for permission and expressed his disagreement with the current political regime to the authorities. Pavel accidentally spilled a glass of wine on Kotler's table, so he was dragged out of the room and beaten to death. Receiving Kotler's humiliation during the debate, Bruno saw how cruel Kotler's treatment of Pavel was. The next day, in the midst of preparations for a party to celebrate his father's birthday, Bruno enters the kitchen where he finds Shemuel polishing glasses. After Kotler beats one of the Jewish servants, Pavel, to death, he is replaced by Shemuel. Bruno gave Shemuel some food to eat. Accepting the food, Samuel begins to eat the beautiful meal. But before he can finish it, a young soldier named Lieutenant Kotler arrives and accuses him of stealing the food. He replies that he didn't steal the food and that it was given to him by his friend Bruno, then turns to Bruno and confronts him. Bruno hated and feared Lieutenant Kotler, who seemed particularly cruel. In a moment of panic, Bruno denies knowing Shemuel, and Lieutenant Kotler then threatens to teach Shemuel a lesson. Later, Bruno goes to his room and is very upset that he lied. As a result, Shemuel does not appear at the fence for almost a week, and he returns home disappointed. The men arrive at his house and Ralph greets them. He goes into a room to watch a documentary about life in a concentration camp. Bruno secretly watches the documentary. Children watch and play. Families enjoy their time. A fake documentary is fed. All this to hide the Nazi atrocities from the outside world. Young Bruno, who knows nothing about this, hugs his father after the documentary. Then he happily goes to the camp to meet Shemuel. Bruno discovers that Shemuel has an injury to his right eye from Kotler's punishment. Bruno apologizes for his mistake. Shemuel forgives him, and finally Shemuel shakes Bruno's hand. Bruno's mother, greatly affected by her husband's cruel nature, worries about the future of her children living around the concentration camp. As a result, she became mentally ill. A year after the Outwith family arrived, Mom grew increasingly apathetic and frustrated with life there. When both children got lice, the mother convinced the father that it was time to take the children back to Berlin. So he says to get ready to go to Berlin. Bruno tells Shemuel the bad news that he's leaving, and he laments that they've never played well together. Shemuel had bad news. His father had disappeared. The two boys plan their last day together. Shemuel would bring a pair of striped pajamas and help Bruno disguise himself by crawling through the small opening at the bottom of the fence to search for his father. They plan to execute their plan the very next day, making a small sandwich to help him find him. Bruno lies to his mother. Mother convinces him to play on the swing one last time before going to Berlin, and Bruno, thinking he will finally escape the evil place, grabs a shovel and runs to Shemuel. Meanwhile, Shemuel brings Bruno a pair of pajamas. He puts them on and starts digging under the wire, and after a while Bruno enters, and they run towards the camp, searching everywhere for Shemuel's father. Meanwhile, Mom notices that Bruno is nowhere to be found on the swing and they start looking for him. She frantically searches everywhere. She finds the backyard door open and runs to find Bruno, only to find Bruno jumping through the barn window after the sandwich has been dropped. So the mother urgently informs her husband about Bruno. Ralph sent men to look for Bruno. At the same time, a group of soldiers arrive and order everyone inside the hut to come out. The two children are caught between the group of men and are forced to go in the direction the group is going because Bruno is wearing the same striped dress. The boys and prisoners were taken to the changing room, ordered to remove clothes. They think they are going to undress for a bath. Meanwhile, Ralph finds Bruno's clothes outside the fence. He quickly enters the camp. Bruno ordered the officers to search. Meanwhile, Bruno and Shemuel are taken into a gas chamber. The boys unaware of what is happening until a Schutzstaffel soldier pours explosive pellets inside. The other Jews panic, and Bruno and Shemuel grab each other's hands. As Ralph realizes realizes the gassing is already taking place. He pauses with a look of concern on his face and calls out Bruno's name in grief and despair. Bruno's mother and Gretel could hear Ralph's screams in the distance with sad faces. The film ends by showing the silent gas chamber closing its door, indicating that all the prisoners there, including Bruno and Shemuel, had been burned to death. Please like and subscribe to our channel. It will be a huge help. Thanks for watching.